Top 10 NFL offenses of all time. Number 10, 2016 New England Patriots. This is definitely going to be a stretch. I'm pretty sure some people will hate me for it. Of course, I will get some hate for it. I just believe with what they got, with what they had in terms of the running game and also the passing game, they were able to be such a dual threat. It was great to see. Like, honestly, they got it done. Most of the time, they were, like I said, fantastic at what they did. And to get LeGarrette Blount running almost 20 touchdowns, and then you had Tom Brady doing his thing, it's almost an invincible kind of offense. And, you know, they showed it throughout the playoffs. Had 27.6 points per game, which ranked third in the league. But, you know, they won it all. Of course, there are going to be some teams on here that didn't win it, though. Didn't win it all. Their offense was just super fantastic. They just, you know, they either just didn't get it done because of upsetting, or, you know, they should have won and they came really close and they didn't because miracles and stuff. So we'll just see what happened here, and we look at this offense-wise. I mean, they're third in points. They're fourth in total yards. They were first in turnovers. They never got turnovers ever. They were fifth in first downs. They were fourth in passing yards, sixth in passing touchdowns, first interceptions, which meant like the less interceptions, only 2 there. They were also seventh in rushing yards. They were fifth in rushing touchdowns. They were actually third in terms of where they started. They always started at their own 30.9 yard line over there. Also, their average time per drive ranked 7th. It only took them like 2 minutes 45 seconds. Average number of plays was ranked 7th. It only took them about 6 plays. In terms of points, average points per drive, they ranked 5th with 2.41 points. Overall, fantastic team. They went through teams like that. They were really impressive. So honestly, my honest opinion, yes, I enjoyed a lot of New England playing. No matter if you hate them or not, love them, whatever. I'm not a Patriot fan. I just think they deserve this. I think with the weapons that they had, with Gronk out and still being able to produce with the Hogan, and, you know, having Amendola, having Edelman, having Blunt, it's a pretty good thing, as long with, you know, the James Whites of the world. So pretty good offense. Number 9, 1992 Dallas Cowboys. Yes, the 1992 Dallas Cowboys, in my book, deserves a lot of respect. I enjoy this Cowboys team overall. They are really entertaining. I mean, you had, at that time, you know, Jimmy Johnson, great coach. The fact that, you know, they had pretty great coaches, you know. Offensive coordinator was North Turner, you know. They had some great defensive coaches, and they just rolled past in the playoffs. You know, they really did. Looking at their offense, 25.6 points a game, ranked second. But the fact that you had Michael Irvin doing phenomenal job, you had Troy Aikman doing his thing, and of course you had Emmitt Smith just rolling through. I mean, almost 2,000 yards for him. Fantastic. So, in my honest opinion, yeah, I would totally see that this offense was just, they were a pain. Jay Novacek, Michael Irvin, you know, Alvin Harper had his moments, you know, Daryl Johnston had his moments. So it was pretty solid team. So overall, yeah, they cruised in the playoffs and cruised in the Super Bowl. Super Bowl against the Bills, 52-17. Like, they could not stop them. Could not stop them at all. And I mean, you're looking at their rankings: second in points, fourth in yards, total yards, fourth in turnovers. They also were fourth in first downs. They were fifth in passing yards, fifth in passing touchdowns, sixth in interceptions. Also, fifth in rushing yards and second in rushing touchdowns. And like I said, overall, this team was just a dynamite. It was a powerhouse. And yeah, a great Cowboy team for sure. Number 8, 1969 Minnesota Vikings. Pretty much, in my honest opinion, one of the most complete, dominant teams ever that didn't win a Super Bowl. Should have won a Super Bowl, didn't win a Super Bowl. They're here because they dominated them. Really, I don't even know how they lost the Super Bowl against Kansas City. honestly, I didn't really watch the game, so I'm gonna guess they just didn't have that great of a day. I would definitely have to research more and actually watch the game. Hopefully that can give me something. If you guys know more about it than I do, I'd appreciate some feedback. I just know that this team needs to be super well deserved of being a team that should have won it all and didn't. I mean, it's a 12-2 team led by Bud Grant. You know, won to the Rams, beat down the Browns, lost in the Super Bowl 7-23, and had an offense that was phenomenal. They ranked first in points, and they ranked first in points against. They were a dominant team. They allowed only 9.5 points a game. That's phenomenal. But for the points for, this is what we're talking about first, though. Offense. 27.1 points a game. In that time, pretty great. The fact that, first of all, I mean, you're taking a look at Joe Cap, had a good year, led him to a really good record of 12-1, you know, did his thing. Interception-wise, not that great, but overall, you know, pretty great. I mean, Gene Washington, you know, they had John Henderson, they had John Beasley, they also used Bob Grimm, you know, and Bill Brown was used, Dave Osborne was used. The running game, of course, Dave Osborne, Bill Brown did a well-deserving job. I mean, honestly, it was a pretty good offense. I'm pretty sure if they had Fran Tarkenton, I'm pretty sure they probably would have won this. Maybe that's what it is. I'm not sure. All I know is that this team deserves a lot of credit. They were phenomenal. Looking at the rankings, I mean, first in points for, 10th in total yards, 4th in turnovers, 8th in first downs, 12th in passing yards, 2nd in touchdowns, 6th in interceptions, 4th in rushing yards, 5th in rushing touchdowns. Honestly, I enjoy it. I really enjoy it. So that's pretty good. Number 7, 1971 Dallas Cowboys. I'm not going to lie. Very, very fun team to watch. Led by Captain America himself, Roger Staubach. Pretty much, you know, we all know about their whole nickname of America's team. I don't know if that's actually what they should be called now. All I know is that that's pretty much their nickname they got. But overall, you're looking at a team that scored about 29 points a game. First in the NFL, 11-3 record, led by Tom Landry as the head coach, getting past Minnesota, getting past San Francisco, beating the Miami Dolphins 24-3. Oof, that's pretty good. And like I said, they had Roger Staubach, you know, they had the luxury of having Lance Allworth, they had Mike Ditka there, they had themselves some Bob Hayes, you know. Running wise, they got Dwayne Thomas. They had Walt Garrison, which was a really good receiver as well. You know, Calvin Hill was pretty good at being the runner. So I mean, overall, you really just gotta give a lot of credit to this offense. Roger Staubach himself, very good runner, very good elusive quarterback that just proved to be a key and vital piece to this championship team. I mean, you're looking at what they did for the year. First in points for, first in total yards, 11th in turnovers, first in first downs, second in passing yards, second in passing touchdowns, 5th in interceptions, 3rd in rushing yards, 1st in rushing touchdowns. Pretty much, what can I say? They did a really great job defensively, but at that time, defenses were a lot more physical than the Cowboys were, so they had to beat them with having a decent defense, but their offense was high class, high scoring, and they got it done. And a big thing of why they stand here on this list. Number 6, 1989 San Francisco 49ers. I couldn't have gone on this list without a 49er team on here. Gotta go with the Joe Montana team. You know, you'll see exactly who is up on this list in the top 5. You'll be surprised, maybe you're not. But this 49er team, I mean, was fantastic. They had a great roster. They were bound to win, had a great defense. I mean, they were everything you wanted. If you were a 49er fan, you loved it. You know, I mean, the fact that they had Steve Young win them 3 games. You had Joe Montana himself be 11-2, dominate it. You know, you had a Roger Craig, you had a Tom Ratham. You know, you had Joe Montana and Steve Young that could run. On top of that, you had the best receiver of all time in Jerry Rice. You had yourself John Taylor. You had yourself Brent Jones. Like, you had yourself a number a number of just great receiving options and great, just overall, just a great team, you know. And like I said, they scored 27.6 points per game, which at that year was first. And, you know, had a solid defense. They stormed past the Vikings. They crushed the Rams, and they literally crushed their entire competition. 41-13 in a divisional game against the Vikings, 30-3 against the Rams, and in the Super Bowl they beat the Denver Broncos 55-10. Mike Holmgren, great offensive coordinator, coach, like honestly fantastic. And then, I mean, you're looking at their rankings: first in points for, first in total yards, second in turnovers, first in first downs, second in passing yards, first in touchdowns, first in interceptions, 10th in rushing yards, 12th in rushing touchdowns. So, I mean, for the most part, they could use their running ability. It might not have been top 5, but they were pretty gifted on the running game as well. So that was definitely a little underrated for the most part. Number 5, 1994 San Francisco 49ers. Yes, this team is fantastic. I didn't want to be biased because, you know, you had a Steve Young team that was so good, but you also had a Joe Montana team. I had to put both those teams on here. Joe Montana, you know, it was pretty rough seeing Montana go. For 49er fan, they love Joe Montana a lot more than Steve Young. Steve Young had to earn that, and I think winning a Super Bowl obviously definitely changed their vision of Steve Young. He definitely became another prodigal son of San Francisco. They really were like, you know what, Joe is Joe, Steve is Steve. Why don't we just have them both, just praise them both for what they're doing? And I think that's, you know, it was a very culmination of that. Probably would have been a lot different if they didn't win the Super Bowl this year. But 94, they went 13-3 under George Seifert. You know, I mean, 31.6 points a game, first in the league. I mean, honestly, that's fantastic in itself. And like I said, the fact that they won a divisional game against the Bears, 44-15. They went to Dallas, to versus Dallas. I'm pretty sure they were in San Francisco at the time. Won 38-28, and you know, then Chargers, they just blew them out 49-26, and you know, all from this mindset of Mike Shanahan. Really fantastic team overall. Steve Young was dynamic. Ricky Watters, William Floyd. Steve Young could run, if you guys did not know about that. But I mean, you had, of course, Jerry Rice, you had John Taylor, you had Brent Jones, you had a Nate Singleton when you needed those kind of yardage. You know, honestly, it's a dual threat offense. Really, it was definitely a more dual threat offense than the 1989 team. I mean, you're just taking a look at this entire team, and you're looking at first in points for, second in total yards, fifth in turnovers, first in first downs, fourth in passing yards, first in touchdowns, third in interceptions. Then you're looking at sixth in rushing yards, second in rushing touchdowns. You know, like, I don't know what to tell you. They ranked in a lot. They ranked in a lot of things. Let me tell you, that was not below 10 material. So you can see how dynamic this team was. So that's why they're on this list. Number 4, 1997 Denver Broncos. Pretty much, what can I say? A fantastic team, you know, under Coach Mike Shanahan, with a John Elway, with a Shannon Sharpe, with a Terrell Davis. You know, Terrell Davis having a great year this year, almost 2,000 for him in this year. You know, John Elway was fantastic as usual. You know, John Elway with his legs as well. And, you know, you had a Rod Smith, you had a Shannon Sharpe, you had an Ed McCaffrey, you had a lot of weapons. And it showed, and it was fantastic, and it led them to a 12-4 record. They won the AFC West. They beat down the Jaguars in the wild card 42-17. Went up against the Chiefs, beat them 14-10. Went up against the Pittsburgh Steelers, beat them 24-21, and went to the Super Bowl and won 31-24. It was a big roller coaster, and you know, for offensive coordinator Gary Kubiak, it was definitely a roller coaster that was mostly positive. I mean, their offense definitely was the key factor of their success. So, I mean, honestly, winning the Super Bowl is kind of like the nail in the coffin for them. I mean, you're looking at what they had. They had first in points for, first in yards, sixth in turnovers, first in first downs, 9th in passing yards, 4th in touchdowns, 6th in interceptions, 4th in rushing yards, 5th in rushing touchdowns. Everything is their top 5 pretty much. I mean, that's all you should really know about this team, is that the fact that they're in all the categories of that year to being, that good. That's, like I said, when you have to worry about John Elway throwing the ball to Shannon Sharp or to Rod Smith or to Ed McCaffrey, but then again, you also have to worry about the running game and how Terrell Davis can definitely affect you. It makes defenses, and it makes it super hard for other teams to really focus and really to key on one thing to look at. They got both things, and that's what made them a special team. That's what made them Super Bowl champs. Number 3, 2009 New Orleans Saints. If you don't love the Saints, I understand, but I personally love this team. As much as it was terrible for me to see the Colts lose, because I was actually cheering for them. I'm not a fan of the Colts, but, in the Super Bowls, I pick one team, and I'm super emotional about it for some reason. I'm always like, oh, they got to win, and then, in the end, I'm like, oh, it doesn't matter, my team's not even in it. Yeah, I don't want to be biased, so I'm not going to tell you which team I am, because in case of future videos, if I put my team at number 1, you might think it's biased, but no. Maybe I will later on. Anyway, point being, 2009 Saints was a fantastic team to watch. Whether you love their defense, I mean, they really weren't the best defensive team. They just had a great offense led by one of the best quarterbacks of all time in Drew Brees. I mean, 31.9 points a game, first in the league. I mean, that says it itself. 31.9 points per game. Offensive coordinator Pete Carmichael and Sean Payton, very tough guy. 13-3 record in the NFC South, cruising by the Cardinals 45-14, barely squeaking by the Vikings 31-28, and then really kind of pretty. It wasn't that hard to beat the Colts in the Super Bowl 31-17. They just, they really stepped it up defensively, but offensively, I'm telling you, offensively was scary that entire year. I mean, looking at the team itself, you had Mark Brunell that could have, been a backup if Drew Brees was injured. First of all, Drew Brees had a fantastic year. I mean, when does he not have a fantastic year? He always has 4,000 plus passing yards every year. It's fantastic. And like I said, they had a Mike Bell running back. They had a Pierre Thomas. They had a Reggie Bush. That 3 tandem running back is scary. And then on top of that, you had a Robert Meacham. You had a fullback in Heath Evans that can play. You definitely had a really, really, really solid Devery Henderson receiver. You had Marcus Colston, which in that time he was definitely could have been known as a top 10 wide receiver in the league. Jeremy Shockey was fantastic. David Thomas, when he needed to, you just give it to him. He could definitely get some good play in there. Lance Moore, not really a big target, but I mean, I'm pretty sure he could catch the football. So I mean, they had a lot of weapons. They had a lot of guys running it, passing it. It was a nightmare for other teams, and you're just looking at what they had. I mean, first in points for, first in total yards, second in first down, 16th in turnovers, 4th in passing yards, first in passing touchdowns, 6th in interceptions, 6th in rushing yards, 3rd in rushing touchdowns. They were also 6th at where they usually started, at the own 31.4. They were 12th in the average time per drive, which was about 2 minutes 44 seconds. They were 13th in average number of plays per drive, which pretty much was 5.73. They were third in net yards per drive, which was 34.9, and they were 2nd in average points scored per drive, which was 2.44. Fantastic team, and you just got to give it up to them. Number 2, 1999 St. Louis Rams has to be arguably one of the best teams. It was hard for me not to put them number 1, but there was another team that I really thought deserved to being up there because of their season and everything. And even though, for them it was different results than the 99 Rams. 99 Rams, for that span, greatest show on turf. I mean, whatever you want to call it, I'd call them greatest show on turf because they were fun to watch, dude. They were just a fun team. And honestly, just pure excitement. You're looking at, like I said, one of the best, if not the best football story ever. Kurt Warner, from being a guy working at the supermarket to, honestly, from supermarket to being on the Super Bowl level stage, and to throw numerous touchdown passes, to be an MVP quality guy, which he won the MVP, you know? I mean, 32.9 points a game that year, first in the NFL. Of course it was first in the NFL. They were fantastic, you know, winning 49-37 the divisional round of the Vikings, 11-6 in an awesome NFC Championship against the Buccaneers, and then beating the Titans 23-16. Mike Martz being the offensive coordinator and Dick Vermeil being the coach led him to a good record of 13-3, honestly. And, you know, like I said, when you got a really good QB like a Kurt Warner that threw for 41 passing touchdowns and over 4,000 passing yards, it's amazing. It's fantastic. And you had one of the best running backs of all time, Marshall Faulk there. You had Robert Holcomb, which could run it, and he was a pretty valuable utility guy, you know. You also had Isaac Bruce. You're looking at Torrey Holt in there. You're looking at Hakeem. Hakeem was very good. Prohl was good. Roland Williams was good. Like, they had a lot of weapons. It was a fun team to watch. They scored a lot of points. And they were bound to be great. They were bound to be somewhere in the Super Bowl mix, and they got there. They got to the Super Bowl. And, I mean, it's fantastic. And it's also an incredible story for being at this countdown number 2, because this was a team that before the season, when they lost Trent Green, had no chance of even getting anywhere else. They thought Kurt Warner's going to be just a bust. He's going to be terrible. But unbelievable story of a guy that was, you know, stocking shelves in the market to being a Super Bowl MVP, and everything in between, and being a part of the greatest show on turf. And yeah, I love this team a lot. I love to just analyze this team. I love looking at this team. I wish I could have seen every single game live, because that was a fantastic team to watch. Oof, good time to be a Rams fan, huh? Yeah, number 1, though, it's not going to be the 2013 Broncos, and no, it is not the 98 Vikings. We got the 2007 New England Patriots as the number 1 team. Big reason why the 2013 Broncos are not on the list. Yes, they broke a lot of records. A lot of records. They are arguably the best offense of all time. But in the Super Bowl, when it counted most, not that they didn't win, they got slaughtered. Okay? With this New England Patriots team, at least I can say they were pretty darn close to winning it. Yes, they might have not won it, but their offense was fantastic. And yes, they might have not been the offense of every single game that they were a part of. But reaching 18-0 is it's a pretty accomplishment thing. Even if you're 18-1 by the end of that game, which they are, they will be always doubted as 18-1, almost there, kind of perfection team. You know, they'll always be doubted as doubted. They'll always be scripted as that team that was almost perfect. But either or, you need to put respect to this team. This team was fantastic. Whether the cheating allegations are real or whatever, I'm going to put them on here for what they did, which was just dominate teams all the time. And you got to give credit to Josh McDaniels, got to give credit to Bill Belichick. Regular season 16-0, you know, got to the postseason, storm past there, 31-20 against the Jaguars, 21-12 against the Chargers. You know, they were 1 game away and lost to the New York Giants 17-14. Fantastic Super Bowl, let me tell you. And one of those David Goliath stories that are fantastic to just read about and to know about. And you're looking at 36.8 points a game. First, of course, it'll be first. They were unstoppable. No one can stop this team from literally scoring the ball. They get like 1 play average, you know, or something like that. They would just have that 1 big play. He's just gonna throw it to Randy Moss, boom. And the biggest thing is the records that were broken. Tom Brady with his single season passing touchdowns record, Randy Moss with his single season receiving touchdown record. And they don't even give credit to the running team, honestly. I think the rushing was pretty good, too. They had a pretty good running game as well. Tom Brady, of course, was fantastic. But, I mean, with Tom, I mean, Lawrence Maroney was pretty good. If you know, that year, Lawrence Maroney, Sammy Morris, Kevin Falk, they were all good. Running-wise, Lawrence Maroney was better than both of them. But, I mean, you're looking at those other guys. I mean, Kevin Falk was pretty good at receiving from the backfield. You know, he was pretty good at catching those balls and trying to honestly making something out of nothing. And on top of that, people don't understand, Randy Moss is fantastic, okay? But people overlooked Wes Welker's value. Wes Welker was fantastic for this team as well. Dante Stallworth, fantastic for this team. Ben Watson was really good addition. Jabari Gaffney, very good, you know? Like, got to put these guys up there as well. They were super good team, and they had everyone, and Brady was able to distribute pretty well. And you know, he's got a cannon of an arm, so of course he was going to give Randy Moss those long balls. Fantastic. And you're looking at these rankings: first in points for, first in total yards, first in turnovers, first in first downs, first in passing yards, first in passing touchdowns, third in interceptions, 13th in rushing yards, 5th in rushing touchdowns, you know, 7th in where they started, which was a own 32.3. They were first in time per drive, like how much they can score, 3 minutes it took them. First in how many plays they usually ran was like 6. First in the total net yards, 39.3, and then you had first in points. I mean, the average points that they had was 3.19. It's a team that was dominant. They just went through a team that was more resilient than them, and a team that was ready to go get it, which was the New York Football Giants. But other than that, you gotta give some credit to this team. They were fantastic to watch. They were pretty good defensively. They really were, and they were so close from really making history.